Every day, millions of Canadians walk into grocery stores believing they are making informed, responsible choices. They scan labels, compare prices, and trust that the product in front of them has passed through a system designed to protect their health and values. Words like fresh, Canadian, farm-raised, and natural create a sense of reassurance. They imply care, oversight, and integrity. Most people never question that assumption, but the truth is, most Canadians have never been shown how their meat actually moves from farm to shelf. They are rarely told who owns the processing facilities, how centralized the system truly is, or how much information is legally allowed to be hidden from consumers. The story told on the package is carefully curated. The story behind the package is far more complicated. What makes this more concerning is that key decisions affecting Canada's food system often happen quietly. Policy discussions, regulatory changes, and industry negotiations take place far from public attention. By the time consumers notice the effects, prices have risen, packages have shrunk, and transparency has already been lost. Understanding this system isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Walk through any Canadian grocery store and the meat aisle feels abundant. Beef alone appears in dozens of forms: premium cuts, budget packs, organic labels, grass-fed claims, and local branding. It creates the impression of competition and diversity. Consumers believe they are choosing between fundamentally different products. But behind the scenes, much of that variety collapses into a narrow pipeline. Different labels often draw from the same processors, the same slaughterhouses, the same supply chains. The difference is rarely how the meat was processed. It's how it's packaged, marketed, and priced. This illusion of choice benefits retailers and processors alike. It allows them to segment consumers by price sensitivity while maintaining centralized control. When something goes wrong, contamination, recall, labor disruption, the impact spreads quickly across brands that appear unrelated on the shelf. Consumers may think they're switching suppliers when in reality, they're not switching the system at all. Beef holds a special place in Canadian food culture. It's associated with ranching, open land, and tradition. Marketing reinforces this image, suggesting that beef comes from countless independent sources competing on quality. But processing data tells a very different story. In Canada, nearly all beef is processed through just 3 major facilities. 2 are located in Alberta and 1 in Ontario. Together, they handle approximately 95% of the beef sold nationwide. This means that an entire country depends on a tiny number of industrial choke points. Another assumption many Canadians make is that Canadian meat equals Canadian ownership. But the largest beef processors operating in Canada are multinational corporations headquartered abroad. While cattle may be raised domestically, strategic decisions are often made elsewhere. This global ownership structure prioritizes scale, throughput, and profit optimization. Many Canadian beef recalls occur after the product has already been shipped to retailers, and sometimes after it has been sold to consumers. Canada's system relies heavily on detection after distribution. Testing identifies issues once meat is already circulating through the supply chain. At that point, recalls become damage control rather than prevention. Consumers may hear about recalls days or weeks later, often through government notices or media reports. Not everyone sees them. Not all products are returned. Some are already consumed. The system functions, but it places much of the risk downstream, closer to the consumer. The word fresh is one of the most powerful marketing tools in the meat aisle. Bright red beef, neatly arranged trays, and butcher counters suggest immediacy and care. But legally, freshness has a very narrow definition. Under Canadian regulations, fresh meat simply means it has never been frozen. It says nothing about how recently the animal was slaughtered. Beef can be vacuum sealed, shipped across provinces, and stored under refrigeration for weeks, while still qualifying as fresh. In many stores, meat is cut and repackaged to enhance appearance. This practice isn't illegal, but it does blur the line between perception and reality. Without mandatory disclosure of slaughter dates or processing locations, consumers are left guessing. Chicken is often marketed as the healthiest and most responsible protein choice: lean, affordable, widely available. But the modern chicken Canadians buy today is the result of decades of intense industrial optimization. These birds are not just farmed, they are engineered for speed. Through selective breeding, modern broiler chickens reach slaughter weight in as little as 5 to 6 weeks. Just a few generations ago, that same process took 12 to 16 weeks. The difference is staggering. Muscle growth has been prioritized above nearly every other biological function. Animal welfare researchers have documented how this accelerated growth impacts the birds themselves. Bones struggle to support rapidly increasing body mass. Mobility issues are common. Some birds experience cardiovascular strain because their organs cannot keep pace with their muscle growth. In many cases, chickens spend much of their short lives sitting, simply because standing becomes uncomfortable or painful. This system isn't designed around longevity or natural behavior. It's designed around output. The faster a bird reaches market weight, the lower the cost per kilogram of meat. That efficiency benefits processors and retailers, but the biological cost is absorbed entirely by the animal. To maximize efficiency, chickens are raised in high-density indoor environments. Thousands of birds are housed together, often with limited space to move freely. While these conditions are tightly controlled for temperature and feeding, they also create ideal conditions for disease to spread. When animals are kept this close together, illness can move quickly through a flock. That's why disease prevention becomes a central pillar of the system. While antibiotics for growth promotion are restricted in Canada, therapeutic antibiotics are still used to control outbreaks and prevent wider losses. This creates a delicate balance. On one hand, the industry argues these measures are necessary to protect animal health. On the other, critics warn that reliance on medication in crowded systems reflects a deeper structural problem. Consumers rarely see this side of chicken production. What they see is the final product: clean packaging, low prices, and reassuring labels. The reality behind that efficiency remains largely hidden. Pork production in Canada is highly industrialized, often even more so than beef or chicken. Most pigs are raised indoors in controlled environments designed to maximize feed efficiency and growth rates. These systems allow for precise control over diet, temperature, and reproduction. From an economic standpoint, they are highly efficient. From an animal welfare perspective, they raise serious questions about confinement, enrichment, and quality of life. Unlike beef, which is often associated with open land and grazing, pork production rarely fits that image. Yet pork products are marketed using many of the same comforting terms: farm-raised, wholesome, traditional. The disconnect between imagery and reality is significant. What many Canadians don't realize is that Canadian pork is not primarily produced for Canadians. Roughly 70% of it is exported to foreign markets. China, the United States, Japan, and Mexico are among the largest buyers. This means production decisions are shaped by international demand, pricing pressures, and trade agreements. Canadian consumers are not the primary audience. They are the secondary market. When export demand is strong, domestic supply can tighten and prices rise. When export markets slow down or close due to political tensions or disease concerns, surplus pork floods the domestic market instead. This system creates volatility and disconnects production from local values. Pork raised to meet foreign specifications often ends up on Canadian shelves, repackaged and rebranded for domestic shoppers. While all of this unfolds, Canadians face rising meat prices alongside shrinking packages. Cuts become thinner. Added water increases weight. Shrinkflation quietly erodes value while branding distracts from the change. Ethical meat options exist, organic, humane, pasture-based, but they are often priced beyond reach for average households. The system offers ethical choices in theory, but not in practice. Canada's meat system is not broken. It is optimized for scale, efficiency, and profit. But optimization comes at a cost: reduced transparency, centralized risk, and limited consumer power. Canadians deserve clearer labels, honest disclosure, and real information. Because when food systems grow too large to question, the consequences always land on the consumer's plate. Read the label, ask questions, stay informed. Because what you don't see may matter more than what you do.